All right, so welcome back, guys. So the last section we have here is to file for forms. Okay, so as you can see here on the payroll section under the employees, you have the last section, which is to process payroll forms. Now, because this also has to deal with which payroll system that you go through, okay? So in this case, right, we have the basic payroll services, right? We are looking at Intuit's basic payroll services, which allows us to just process our payroll, right, to pay our employees and to pay our liabilities. However, in the book, it tells you that you have to have an enhanced or you have to have assisted payroll services to go and process the forms for you. So even if I go to the payroll center and I click on file forms, it's going to give me a notification that tells me that I must have a higher version of the payroll subscription. See, you must do the latest payroll update before you can actually process the payroll. So in this case, you need to download the enhanced or assisted version in order for you to process your 940 and your 941. So once again, this just makes it a lot more easier, right? Because your 940 and your 941 basically tells you that did you pay your liabilities, did you pay them on time, how much do you owe, did you pay them off, etc., right? And it gives you your W-2 form information as well, because that's going to process the W-2 form. Did I say W4? W-2 form, so that you can give that to your employees, okay? So once again, that's usually the last thing that you do when you pay your employees and then you pay your liabilities at the end of the year when you file your taxes. This is what this form does for you, right? The form 940 and then the form 941, which allows you to pay for the federal and state taxes, okay? Now, with that being said, right, in this case, because we have the basic one and for smaller businesses, right, you're more likely going to go to your tax accountant to be able to handle this work for you. So in this case, we don't have the enhanced or the assisted version of payroll services, which allows you to go ahead and fill out those forms a lot easier. You could submit it. You can even upload it, all the information, right? And it takes all the information that you entered in QuickBooks and pulls it and extracts it, and it fills out the form for you automatically. Okay, but in this case, I can't show you because the book doesn't even want to show you either, right? It just gives you that small section on how to file forms, okay? And let's see what else. Okay, payroll reports. That's pretty straightforward because once again, every payroll information that you have in regards to knowing what did what. So again, creating payroll reports. Again, it's just more pertinent for the position of whatever you're in. So in this case, payroll would be most likely for a human resource or a just person who's in charge of payroll itself. Not necessarily accounts payable or accounts receivable. This is just PR itself, just payroll. So they're going to be more, they're the ones that are going to be responsible for holding all the information and running these reports, whether it's to do the payroll summary report, right, which gives you a list of all the, taxes that you have to pay, okay? Or, for example, another one could be the sales rep commission, right? If you pay commissions to your employees, right, how do they obtain it? Or if you want to run an items report like I just did earlier, right? I just selected the item and did a quick report on that. All right. Other ones could be your payroll tax liability reports, right? So once again, whichever one that makes sense to you, that makes it easier for you to be able to understand, or whatever question that you are trying to ask is going to be the reports there. So once again, if I hit reports, right, I go to employees and payroll. Okay, so employees and payroll. And here will be the list of all the payroll reports that you can do. So once again, payroll summary, right? I can do payroll item summary, which gives me a summary of every single item that I've been through. So again, so you have your salaries and wages expense. Okay, you have your taxes expense, all of that information all here. Okay, your salary security, your social security employee taxes. Okay, you have all that information there. You could toggle it once again by looking at custom reports. You can toggle the date. You could choose all. So this is records for all the years. You could do it for a specific time frame. So for example, I could say for this month. Okay, for this month, meaning December of 2019. Those are all the taxes that I was subject to have to go through with each employee. Okay. So once again, these reports are going to be pretty much based on your position in the company, as well as the position or what kind of question you are asking. So once again, I'm not going to go through those reports because they might not even matter to you, because they could be, you might not be in charge of payroll. Okay. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do manual payroll if you choose not to use a, if you choose not to, if you choose not to go with the payroll services that Intuit provides, let's say you have a smaller group of employees that you can manually do the payroll for, then go ahead and process payroll manually, okay? So once again, I'm going to go ahead and open up this PR setup, the one that we did yesterday, okay? Because I'm going to show you how to activate manual payroll, because in order for you to use it, you need to activate it. I think my cap locks are on. Yes, they are. So once again, I'm going to pull up PR setup. So if you guys remember, right, we went through the whole setup. So everything is exactly where it needs to be. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and click remind me later. Okay. So once again, in chapter 10, the reason why we set it up was for, in fact, that we were going to do manual payroll. But even if you did a payroll services, you still have to go through the payroll setup interview, because once again, it would just only make it 10 times more easier for you to be able to get the payroll services, and the payroll services will recognize all the accounts and it will do everything for you, right? Calculate everything that you need to calculate, okay? And again, because the first thing that you did was enter in that this company was doing business in California, right? That already gave Intuit or QuickBooks the idea that, okay, since you said that you were located in San Jose or whatever it was, right? Pleasantonville or something, Pleasanton, California, right? That's going to be somewhere in Northern California, more closely to Santa Clara, San Jose area, right? So they're going to be taking all that information and say, well, that means you have to pay California tax, and you have to pay for, any local taxes that are around there. So QuickBooks is very, very smart. If I said my company is founded in or doing business in Las Vegas, Nevada, right? It's going to automatically pull the information saying, okay, well, Nevada doesn't pay state taxes. All you're subject to do is just pay for federal. Okay, so that's how smart QuickBooks is. It pulls the information for you based on the location of your business, not based on, and then also does the same thing for in case your employees are, once again, don't live in California. It's going to be based off of what their city that they reside in, right? So for example, if I have someone that's working in Nevada, they don't pay state taxes, so they are cleared from California. Okay, now there are some what do you call it? Some ways that you can get around that, depending on if you have a, what do you call it? If you are working in California, and you can be exempt from Nevada taxes and be forced to pay California tax. I don't know what the rules are. You definitely have to go look into that, and is in the IRS to get more details in it. But especially for California, right? That's a tricky one because you might get double taxed. You might have to be forced to pay for California and pay for Nevada tax, which in this case, Nevada doesn't pay taxes. But that's just circumstantial, just a little FYI. But in this case, right, the Chapter 10, we set up payroll for the idea of doing a manual payroll system. So what does a manual payroll system look like? Well, if I go to File, right, and I go to Preferences, I have to turn on manual payroll. So if I go to Payroll and Employees, I go to Company File. Right here tells me that I want to have full service, and I want to go ahead and enter in manual payroll. So right here, I already have it already turned on. Okay. Now, if you turn this off, then your Pay Liabilities, Pay Employees, and File Forms section is going to actually is not going to be there anymore. It's going to be gone. Okay, so make sure that you have this filed on. I'm going to do manual payroll, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, now down below, I still have turn on payroll. Once again, this section is so that you have a payroll center and you pay for a subscription for Intuit payroll systems, right? But in this case, I'm not gonna have that. I'm gonna ignore that, right? So all I have now is my employee center, which in this case, I don't have the option to make payments to my employees here because look, I don't have that payroll center anymore. So in this case, unfortunately, the only way that you're able to go ahead and do and pay your employees is you either click on Pay Employees, or you can go up to the Employees menu and pay your employees. So I go ahead and click on that, right? This window is going to pop up, right? And this is how you're going to pay your employees. It looks identical to the payroll system one, but here's the difference, right? So in this case, I'm going to pay Katie, okay, since she's a semi-monthly, let's say I'm going to go ahead and make a payment for her for, to end the pay period on July 16. Let's just call it that, okay? So that means 15. So that means she's going to be able to have her paycheck available on the 16th of July. All right. I have 0 employees checked right now unless I click on Katie. And there you go. Now I have 1. The checking account, once again, make sure it's on checking. And then this is how I'm going to process it. I'm going to go ahead and click on Katie's name because I have to make adjustments to her. And look at this. All of the information is empty. And this is where manual payroll is going to come into play. Okay, so here, Katie, she still, doesn't matter how many hours she works. So in this case, if I fill in that she did, let's say she did 88 hours this week, okay? It's still going to be $2,500, no matter what it is, because in this case, she's salary based, right? Now, if you notice here, the only thing that's calculated so far, because we set it up, is only $100, okay? Everything else isn't even clear, right? We don't even have the salaries regular, right? We don't have any information. Okay, so we do have salaries regular, but we don't have any information on what commissions, what extra things that she got, what the taxes are, because this time we have to manually do it, okay? And how do we do that? Well, that's exactly why I introduce you to these tax tables, okay? Now, once again, because we're doing manual payroll system, we are not going to be using this for the automated payroll system because we're doing manual, not for an automated payroll system. So this again, this table down below is strictly only for if you're using a payroll automated system. So some kind of payroll system, this is the tax table you're going to use. In this case, we are going to go and look for the proper tax table. So in this case, we're not going to do bracket method, all right? We're going to go ahead and do percentage method, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and keep scrolling until I hit percentage method, okay? Now, in this case, right, Katie has been working for us since 2008. And in this case, she's never changed her form. So in this case right here, right, I have percentage method if she's submitted to me a W-4 form for 2020 or later. In this case, no, she submitted a 2018 form. So in this case, I need to go to, I think it's this table right here. This table here, which is the percentage method based on manual payroll system for forms W-4 form for 2019 or earlier. So in this case, right, this is why it's so difficult to process payroll now, because now you're dealing with two different W-4 forms, right? And you have to be calculating each W-4 form as a different case scenario. So if someone submitted a 2019 and earlier, you're going to process your payroll differently, right? Than for someone who submitted, who's a new worker that is going to work for you in 2021, and they are subject to have to fill out a W-4 form for 2020 or 2021. So in this case, right, with this IRS form right here, this tax publication 15T, it gives you the steps on how to be able to process manual payroll. Okay, so in this case, I will break it down for you. This is not something you have to memorize, but this is usually what you have to do, because in this case, right, this person is filing a W-4 form that's old. So they are able to claim up their total withholdings, and they have the marital status. They could choose single, married, head of household, whatever it is, right? They have those choices that they can choose. And in this case, right, my W-4 form, she stated that she's married and she has 2 allowances or 2 withholdings because she has 2 children, and she's going to claim them. So in this case, what I'm going to do here is step 1 says you're going to determine what the employee's total taxable wages this pay period is, right? Which we know is $2,500. Okay, so I made a little spreadsheet right here that says, well, she's definitely earned $2,500, right? So total taxable wages, right, is going to be for $2,500, right? That's her total amount that she can earn. Now, in this case, right, because it's the W-4 for 2019, they allow you to take all of your withholdings and allowances before you get taxed, okay? Where nowadays, it's after you get taxed, okay? So in this case, right, I'm not going to obligate to have you guys know this, but in this case, right, the next step is going to tell me, well, how many number of allowances did this person claim? Okay, and then this person, right, we remember by filling out Katie, she claimed 2 allowances, all right? And then the next step says that you're going to multiply the number by the amount in table 4. So in this case, table 6, excuse me. Table 6 says that 1 withholding, right, is going to cost you $179 because it's based on the pay period, which is semi-monthly. So 1 withholding is going to cost me $179. All right? So 179 times 2 withholdings, right, because she's claiming 2, is going to be what you're going to subtract out. So in this case, total allowances, okay, is going to be 179 times 2, which gives you 358. And what you're going to do is you're going to subtract that number. So now this is the number you're going to use in the table, right? $2,142. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and go back into that table, and now we're going to figure out this, right? Which table to use, okay? In this case, this is a weekly table, bi-weekly table, semi-monthly, perfect, right here, 24 paychecks. We're going to go ahead and see which row she belongs into. So in this case, she made $2,142. So right here, 1,338, and she's made below 3,885, which is correct, right? She made 2,142, so therefore she belongs into this row right here, right? And I'm looking at the married side of the table, not the single, okay? So I'm in the married side of the table, and this is the row that I'm going to be looking at. So the government's going to take away from her paycheck, regardless of what she makes, is a total of $83, okay? Anything that she earns in excess is going to be subject to a 12% tax, okay? So in this case, the government lets her keep $1,338. Any dollar extra is going to be subject to 12%. So I'm going to plug that information in my table here, just so then I have a reference point. So $1,338 is what I get to keep. 12% is what the government's going to tax me in excess. And then on top of that, the government's going to automatically take $83 away from my paycheck. So let's go and do for the first one. So $2,142 is what I'm going to be taxable at, right? I'm going to subtract the $1,338 because that's what the government lets me keep. So therefore, in excess, I have $804. So this $804 is what I'm going to be taxed at the 12% for. Okay? And that's going to give me a total of $96.48, right? And I'm going to add on the $83 that the government's going to take from my paycheck regardless of the amount that I made. So therefore, my total withholdings is going to be $179.48. Okay? And that's how you figure out the total federal income tax withholdings, right? For the 2019 and earlier. Okay? I'm showing you this is because that's what she's being paid for, right? She turned in a W-4 form for 2019. She didn't turn a W-4 form for 2020 because she's been working at her store since 2008. Right? It makes no sense for her to have to change any reason unless she's either filed for divorce or she's either the head of household now, or 3, she has another job. Okay? So in this case, that's how you calculate the federal income tax withholdings. And this is how you do it manually. So in this case, right, I need to punch in that this amount, so $179.48, is going to be my total federal income tax withholdings, right? And this is going to go against my paycheck, okay? So $179.48, okay? Let me double check if that's correct. Yeah, $179.48, and that's going to go against my paycheck for under federal income tax withholdings, okay? Now, the next thing is going to be Social Security and Medicare, all right? In our class, we learned that if you're doing a manual payroll, it's going to be based on the total amount of gross earnings, which is $2,500, right? So $2,500, and you are going to tax that by 0.062, right? It's 6.2% of the person's paycheck. Okay, and in this case, I need to put a negative because now it's saying I'm adding this amount to the paycheck. No, I'm subtracting it, which it tells me right here it's being subtracted by $155 even. Okay, and then last but not least, Medicare, which is going to be the total gross earnings, right? And it's going to be taxed at 1.45%. Right? And once that happens, right, it's going to say that I am going to subtract out $36.25. So in this case, that her total that she's going to actually be taken away from is going to be $2,029. Okay, now that's just calculating the federal taxes. We haven't talked about what benefits and what things that I'm going to be taken away for. So in this case, right, we need to make sure that we enter in that for the 401k deduction, we said that it's going to be 2% of her paycheck, right? And then for us to match her is going to be 4%. So I believe it's -4 if I'm not wrong. Let's see, 2%. 2% for 401k deduction is going to be for $50. Okay, if that's 2% of $2,500, $50, right? And then for our side, right, we're already saying that we're going to match the 401k for $100. All right. And once again, because we are subject to all of this, right? State, right? We learned state is going to be 3%, right? In the state of Nevada, of course. But in this case, that's okay. We'll just do for the state of California as well. We know what Social Security is for the company, right? Because we could take a look at Social Security, which is 155 even. Okay? And, oh, let me go ahead and fix that real quick. I pressed enter by accident. So here, Social Security. How much Social Security is she going to be subject to pay? She's going to have to pay, right? Or we have to pay 36, oops, so not 36. We have to pay Medicare, right? We're on Medicare. We have to pay $36.25 because that's how much they're putting in. We have to match them 100%. And then when we learn about federal unemployment, right, we learned it's going to be 6%, okay, which is 6% of the total gross earnings. All right, and then we can go ahead and click tab, okay, and then there we have it, $150. So in this case, right, she's now going to get a paycheck for $19.79.27. And this is how we have to do manual payroll. Now imagine this, and we have to do it to everybody in the company. Every person's going to have a different W-4 form, right? Everyone's going to have a different withholdings. Everyone's going to have a different wage or salary rate. Not everybody's going to be calculating the same amounts. So can you imagine if you have 20 employees, just only 20 employees, how hectic it is to just process payroll and have to calculate each and everyone's individual federal income tax withholdings? So that is why many companies pay the big bucks to just outsource. It's much easier, right? Because you have professional people who, emphasize in payroll itself, okay? And this right here was already a lot of information because I had to memorize what the state unemployment was. I had to memorize what the federal unemployment was, and I also had to remember what the Social Security and Medicare was. And then for the federal income tax, I had to go on an individual basis, right? Go based on their W-4 form. So whether they have the W-4 form for 2019 or the W-4 form for 2020, they're all going to be different. So in this case, right, that's how much work I have to do in order to process this person's paycheck. And that was only one person. Okay? So when everything looks good, right, I could go ahead and click Save and Close. And now, if I go ahead and click Continue, this is my subject here, right? This is how much earnings she made in total. This is how much total tax she's going to be, we're going to be subject to pay, right? This is the amount of deductions, right? This is her total net pay, all right? Now, again, this number does not reflect the same as the sample file because the sample file is 2019. We're in the year 2021, okay? A lot of things have changed, okay? Tax tables have changed. So in this case, any questions in how to do manual payroll?
One did you find? Where are you finding the state tax? Because the federal, you go to IRS, and the state.
The state's going to be based on where you're doing business in. So when you go into file that, you can look it up. You just look up, state unemployment insurance, and then the website on the official website should give you a link to it. In this case, I just guessed. I just guessed that the California is going to be 3%.
State unemployment.
Okay. So once again, you need to know a lot of information, especially if not only like for this example, right? I didn't include California tax because I don't know what the taxes are in California, right? We live in Nevada. But this is just an example of how you'd be able to compute the manual payroll system by using the tax tables and using the information from above, right? And being able to fill this information out. So in this case, right, you need to go for every single profile to make sure you know how many withholdings did they have, what form did they submit to you, how many withholdings do they have, what's the pay period for them, because if you have a salary that's receiving a check every twice a month versus an hourly regular that gets their check every bi-weekly, right, you're going to be using different tables. So once again, that's how you do manual payroll. And I gotta go ahead and click continue. All right. And then it's gonna say, would you like to print the check? I'm just gonna go ahead and click close just because I don't need to print the paycheck, right? Once again, if you do need to, you have to go up to file and you're gonna go ahead and print forms and you're gonna click on paychecks. Okay. That's how you print out paychecks. You're not gonna go down here and click print checks because this is for regular checks, not paychecks. Okay, there is a difference. All right. Okay, with that being said, that is all for chapter 11. Okay, any questions for chapter 11?
No questions.
No questions. All right. Let's go ahead and go through the multiple choice review questions, okay? All right. Number 1, okay? To properly affect the payroll items, okay, which function, okay, parentheses, from employee sections of the home page, okay, should you use to pay the payroll taxes?
D.
Okay, good. D, right? Pay liabilities, right? Pretty straightforward, right? You have 3 options: pay employees, pay liabilities, or file forms. So in this case, D is correct. All right, number 2, voucher style checks, okay, when used for processing payroll may contain what?
A.
A, earnings and tax withholdings, right? Or sorry, tax withholdings, yes. Because remember, voucher style attaches the pay stub information, and then at the very bottom will attach your paycheck itself. So in this case, any information that's in regards to the paycheck itself or the pay stub information, it's going to have your earnings and your withholdings. Okay? It's not going to have your company taxes, obviously, right? Because that's what we are responsible for, not what the employee is responsible for. It's not going to have federal filing statuses. So federal filing status, meaning on our end, right? Did we submit to the federal? Okay, and all of the above. Obviously, not all of the above is going to be on there. Okay. Number 3, okay. The payroll liability balance reports identifies what?
B.
B, liability amounts by payroll item. Good. Okay, I didn't go over reports, but good. Number 4, which statement is true?
A.
You can print pay stubs at any time. That is correct, right? You don't print pay stubs, print 2 per page, obviously. That's a waste of paper. If you find an error in the past paycheck, you should delete it. Never delete anything. Rule number 1, okay? D, and you cannot void a paycheck. Yes, you can. There are just restrictions and things that you need to know before you make that executive decision. So in this case, yes, you can void a paycheck. So the answer is true is going to be A. You can
No,
print.
when you do it manual, right?
Say that again.
If you do yourself, you can void without any problem, no? That's
Yes.
when you do electronic, no?
Well, no. In this case, you could do it with whether you have a payroll system or not. You could
Yes.
you could void a paycheck anytime.
Yes, that's I understand. But if you do manual, it's not going to change anything. You change it whatever you wanted. That's what you're doing. No, it's not going to affect anything.
Well, if you're gonna manually do it, you're just gonna do the same thing where you're going to edit the paycheck itself, and you're just gonna void it as normal. So whether you're doing a manual payroll or not, you're still it will affect it if you don't do it right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But in this case, right, we don't have a person that's calculating this stuff behind the scenes for you. The only difference is you doing manual, you have to be very careful because you want to make sure that you're doing the calculations correctly.
The right stuff.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, okay? To begin processing your payroll.
D.
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 B as in boy or D as in dog?
D as in dog.
Okay, so the answer here is actually D as in dog. You're going to choose the pay employees from the employee section of the home page. Okay, this is to process payroll. Meaning, in order to initiate the process to pay, right? Look at your home page. Okay, what's the first thing you have to do first in order to process payroll? Your first thing is to pay your employees. Okay, you don't pay your liabilities first. Okay. Okay, and then here, A, you write a check for the home page. Remember, if you're trying to pay your employees, you never use write a checks window. Okay, select the employees menu and then choose pay scheduled liabilities. No, you don't pay your liabilities first, you pay your employees first. All right, set the payroll menu and then choose process payroll. There is no menu for that. Okay, so D is the correct answer. Okay. Number 6, QuickBooks automatically calculates paychecks using information from all of the following. Okay, sources except
D.
for number 6, D. Okay, except for the employee's expense report. Yes. Okay, because then the employee expense report, right, that's based on what the employee did, right? So in this case, let's see, A, account of all previous paychecks. Yes, right, they have the year-to-date information, right? B, the employee's current earnings shown on the earnings section. Yes, because if you're processing payroll, that's the first thing that's going to pull up any information on the timesheets. Again, salaries or hourly, right? It's going to reflect as the current earnings. And then C says the employee's tax settings in employee record. Yes. So if a person is subject to be taxed, whether it's federal or state, each person is each person that you make a paycheck to, all that information is going to be in the write a check in that pay check window where it gives you the list of all the taxes that this person is subject to pay. All right. So yes, all of these information are included except for the last one, which is the employee's expense report. No, it's not going to pull anything there. That's a report. Okay. Number 7. Okay, with the standard QuickBooks payroll subscription, okay, which forms cannot be printed directly from QuickBooks?
A.
A.
A, state payroll tax from most states, because once again, it depends on what state that you are doing business in. Why do you need a bunch of other states? Right? You only need the other states if in case you have an employee that doesn't live in the state that they're working in. All right. Again, 940, W3. I'm not quite sure what a W3 form is.
What's that? Yeah.
I don't know. But you definitely want to go to irs.gov to figure out what that is. I've seen it before. It's on irs.gov. They have a W9 form as well. I'm not quite sure what that is for, but that is definitely something that you can print on there. That might be a typo, honestly. I think they were trying to say either W2 or W4. But all of the above can be printed, but no, right? Federal is mandated by all companies to pay. So yes, you can be able to print the 940 form.
You can print every form that you want from, or you have to go to IRS, download the file, and then.
Well, in this case, QuickBooks makes it easier for you to print them out. Like they have those forms available to you, but yes, you can go to irs.gov if you want to. It's the same thing. You're going to be printing the same form that they're going to get from irs.gov. Because
It says a W3 is a transmittal of wage and tax statements. It's a summary for SSA of all business employee wages and contributions for the previous year.
awesome. Okay? Cool. So in this case, you're not going to be able to print any state information because once again, it depends on what state you're using business for. And again, QuickBooks is meant for all states. Okay? You know, you just have to set up your company file to reflect which state you're doing business in. All right. Number 8, to correctly pay your payroll liabilities, choose one of the following options.
B.
Number 8 is B. All right. You're going to be using the pay schedule liability section of the payroll center. Once again, you cannot use a write a checks window. Okay? And you can't enter in tax automatically on payroll agencies. No. And then last but not least, you can't enter a bill. No. You can, but once again, you can't you shouldn't use the pay bills window because if you do, then you have to force to use bill payment to reduce those liabilities. In this case, QuickBooks already creates that payroll liabilities when we go through the payroll setup. That's what we're doing. We're creating these liability accounts. So when you do use the pay liabilities or schedule it, it uses that direction then versus entering a bill. Okay. All right. Number 9. Okay, the payroll summary report shows
D.
D. All right. The detail of each employee's hours, earnings, taxes, and net pay. Good. Okay. Number 10. Okay. If the pay liabilities window shows incorrect tax and amounts, okay, due to a problem which could be caused by D, any of the above. So A, incorrect user entry, yes. So once again, if you have errors in your payroll, you need to correctly adjust it for you to get the correct amount of tax liabilities, right? Using the write-a checks to pay taxes, yes, because once again, if you use a regular check, it's not going to associate to liability payment. So in this case, you're going to be making a payment to nothing, all right? Unless you properly know exactly how to manipulate that check by filling in the correct accounts that are associated to making a payment, all right? And then D, users override calculated taxes. So yes, you can override taxes for any reason. All right. If you're trying to adjust someone's paycheck but you don't want them to pay whatever it is, right? You can accidentally do that and override the calculation. So once again, that's only if you have a payroll system. But if you're doing it manually, that's where most of your information will become inaccurate. Okay. Number 11, okay, to have data from the weekly timesheets, okay, affect an employee's paycheck.
B.
B.
B, you're going to select use times date to create a paycheck on the employee's record. Yes, B is correct, right? In this case, it should automatically do it for you automatically as long as you turn on the enter time window and you enter in the exact dates that you want the payroll to be on. It's going to automatically do it for you. You don't need to enter it in again, or you don't need to import the information from the timesheet. It should automatically transfer for you. Okay. So yes, but if you want to manually do it, then that's what you have to do right here. All right, number 12. Okay, what is shown on the company summary section of the preview paychecks window?
C. D.
C.
Number 12, correct answer is C, employer paid taxes and contributions. Yes, it should show you because once again, if you put your FICA in, you want to make sure that the company did their duties and match you 100%. So yes, that is correct. Number 13, how do you pay a salaried employee for vacation time?
So the vacation payroll, B.
Answer here for 13 is B, right? You're going to use the salary vacation pay roll item and make sure that you enter in the vacation hours time. Yes, B is correct, right? We did an example here. If you remember, Katie's Reynolds, we changed hers. So then she did 3 hours for vacation time. So we paid her for vacation, but we still paid her salaries, okay? Her earned salaries. So in this case, B is the correct answer. Last question here is number 14. Every payday, you should
D.
Okay, verify your tax tables are accurate and update them if necessary. Okay, so once again, how you are going to be able to do that is going to go onto the Intuit website just to make sure that the tax tables match your actual tax table. So then when you doing your payroll system, right, it pans out for you automatically. But in this case, right, if you're doing manual, you just have to make sure that you are using the correct table. All right. And once again, I'm going to have you guys complete these questions on your own. So any questions in regards to Chapter 11, processing payroll?
No.
Okay. So once again, if you have a paid payroll subscription through Intuit, it saves you that much time to just process a paycheck and process to pay your liabilities a lot quicker. Where if you're doing a manual one, like we got to see earlier, we have to think about every single individual's person per case basis, calculate their federal income tax, calculate their Social Security, Medicare, calculate all their deductions, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot that you have to do. So paying for a subscription might benefit you in the long run because it's going to save you a lot of time in processing payroll. And on top of that, it allows you to make less mistakes. All right. So, other than that, okay, if you guys don't have any other questions, you guys are free to go. Tomorrow is the last chapter, chapter 14, on our adjustments and closing up the books.